Ah, the beauty of live YouTube. Hey, good morning, welcome. It is Mobility Monday, off of a weekend of racing where a lot of athletes had some amazing performances at Ironman Arizona and at Ironman Cozumel. And just for those athletes, I just got to say how probably happy they are to finish this season and to have finished on a real high note, those that were able to get there. And then there's some that, might be left scratching their heads a little bit about how to do next year more, with more intention and with more, just the ability to improve. The sport is changing so fast. But we also got to see the NCAA cross-country championships, where we see the top runners in the country and kind of the world, because it's kind of an international field at the NCAAs these days, and that was just so much fun to watch that. And so the question, and those of you that show up here on Monday Mobility, is how do we find our best? How do we get better at doing the things we love? For me right now, it's about staying really in the moment and becoming the best version of myself physically that I can. Definitely have some big goals on the bike in 2023, and I never lose sight of that. So right now, just working on kind of the 80-20, maybe the 90-10 rule of keeping my heart rate down, working that aerobic capacity, but at the same time understanding that from the capacity of what I like to do professionally is to help the body endure through those kinds of challenges and set that body up for success, not just on the day of competition, but also through life. So just the principles that we stick to truly is consistency. So I'm super proud to always show up on Monday mornings, and even if I have to pre-record it, that this is always there for you. So thank you for showing up. It is a really important week in the United States of Thanksgiving. It's such a great holiday just based around gratitude. So more than anything, I'm really thankful when I get a little shout out from people and they really recognize the value of what we're doing here on Mondays with mobility and just helping the human body move just a little bit better. So we want to start this morning. After a little bit of foam rolling, I chose to hit my lower leg. If I had only 2 minutes in my day to foam roll, I would always hit my lower legs. Because if the feet and the lower legs aren't happy or functioning well, or the ankles aren't mobile, the rest of my body will be really challenged. So lower leg will always be my choice. Doesn't mean it's the choice, but it's definitely my choice. Okay, let's go ahead and lay on your back. Knees are up, feet directly underneath of your knees. And from right here, we're going to work through some lumbar mobility. So just your ability to control lumbar pelvic position here. And we're just going to drop that into that anterior tilt where there's space under your back. Put your hands right on your hip bones, flatten those hips, and elevate that pubic bone, and just move that pelvis. Anterior tilt into neutral. Anterior tilt into neutral. And that gets smoother and smoother, but that can get very stuck. So we want the brain to be connecting with this motion in a very easy way. Flat hips when you're down at the bottom and the low back is flat, you have flat hips. Drop the pubic bone, elevate the sacrum, and you get into that anterior tilt. Neutral, anterior. Neutral, anterior. Now let's stay in neutral. Flat hips, lift the legs straight up. And from right there, keeping the hips neutral, let's just tap and come back. Tap and come back. So that's going to be a challenge where you need to pull that belly button into the spine, support that lumbar spine with the weight of each leg as you do this little marching exercise. So you don't want to lose the space. Good. That's going to establish that good activation of those deep abdominal stabilizers, that transverse abdominals, and start to actively lengthen hip flexors without actually losing control of your pelvis. So it's a great exercise to just make sure that you can do that every single day. Next one we're going to go into is a kneeling founder. So from a head-on position here, knees are about shoulder width apart, feet are just outside of the knees. We're going to push the hips back, look way over the cliff. So we don't want to just sit the hips onto the heels. We want to push the hips back and let the eyes move forward. So I'll give you a little bit of a side angle on that. Knees are out, knees are inside of feet, hips back. And from right there, you're going to start to feel the lightness of the toes. You're going to feel little muscles start to switch on. Pull that pubic bone a little bit into belly button. And just hold that position. This is internal rotation of the hips. Hold that nice and strong. Pull the chin back. Head position always matters. And then just let the hips come right back underneath of you. One more time. So this is another little activation exercise. Take a big breath. Pull the ribs off the hips. Forward lean. Hips to the back. Working that hip hinge. Right to the point. The tipping point. Feel the lightness in the toes. And if you get to that point, that's okay. Just come back from it and reset. Find it right on the edge. Keep the ribs off the hips. Keep that head in a nice strong position. And let's go 3 breath cycles here. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Good. That's 3 breath cycles. And a lot of times with my training programs, instead of using numbers and sets and reps, we'll use breath cycles. We do use sets of breath cycles, but okay, so from right here, we've got a little bit of deep core activation. We've got a little bit of posterior chain activation from those 2 things we just did. Let's go ahead and work a little bit of hip rotation. So to get here, put your hands right on your hips, drop your hips to the back. Make sure that all of your toes are comfortably on the ground. And from right there, we're going to drop the right hip towards mid-thigh on the left. Might get a little bit of a stretch on that adductor, that inner thigh muscle. Let's go same side. And you can see this shoulder is following that hip. 2, we don't want to overdo it, right? Stay right there. 2, we're sitting back into that left hip. So start pushing that hip back. This is coming across, the left hip is pushing back. Right shoulder is just staying in alignment with that right hip. And we'll go 1 more. And good. Okay, same thing other side. So we're just going 5 very gentle hip rotations. Push the hip to the back. Legs are about 2 times shoulder width. Push the hips to the back. We're going to drop that left hip across. Aim it at mid-thigh to the right. Left shoulder follows the way. Push the right hip back a little bit. 1. Push the right hip back right here. 2. 3. And 4. Good. And 5. Right, so when we do happy hips, which we'll do in just a second, we're going to have just nice, even more support through the sacrum, through the pelvis. So when we have more support, the brain will sense more safety, and we're actually going to get a little bit more motion. So this hip drops, come back, and then that hip drops and come back. That's called hip decoupling, and that's going to help that SI joint, that sacroiliac joint in the back, start to glide, okay? So we're going to go 10 total, 5 each side. Going to the right first. Drop, push the hip back, 1. Push the hip back, 2. 3. 4. 5. One side definitely going easier than the other. 6. 7. That side I can get all the way in there. 8. Push your hips back. 9. and 10. All right, let's go right down back onto the ground. Make sure your foam roller is near. We're going to go into some nice, easy, happy hips. So that feet are outside of hip width. I'm going to drop in on one side, drop in on the other. So right here, when we drop, this hip drops. When this hip drops, we get a little gentle glide of that sacroiliac joint in the back. So good things happen on the front. You can't deny what's happening in the back. 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, and 5. Okay, I want to get a little more hip mobility, so I'm going to use the foam roller as a tool. We're going to use it long ways. So let's put it right in the crack of the butt there. We're going to work the left glute across. So just working the left glute across, so from the midline all the way out to the outside of the femur. There's a little bit of crunchy in that glute for me. I'm just using this more as a massage than anything. Get some circulation, get some heat, get some blood flow, and then we're going to work the motion again. Work through that. That one's all over glute med. And it's good to have a glute med that's a little spicy. Sometimes that just means it's been working. So don't raise the alert flag too quickly that something's wrong. It might be something's right. And just across, midline of the body, across, and back, across. This side's a little bit easier to move across. Good. And good. All right. So we've created motion from the happy hips. We got a little bit of tissue release from the foam roller. Now let's enhance that wide stance hip rotation, and we're going to add a hand driver. So left hip is going to go back, right hip is going to go across, right hand is going to drop to the ground and come back. So let's go that same side 5 times. We're going rotate across, add a hand driver, push that hip back, come right back up. Push the left hip back, and 3. So the right hand is really driving the right hip. 4, and 5. Good. Same thing other side. So we're going to push the right hip, get the right hip out of the way, take the left hip into the mid-thigh, and then take the left arm to the ground with a nice big reach. Push the hips back. 2. Weight is on the heels. 3, 4, and 5. Okay, each side, that's why we repeat it. We make sure that each side feels comfortable. You can already feel that that's starting to feel better. Now let's go ahead and alternate sides. We'll go 10 total. So heels are outside of the toes. Make sure all the toes are on the ground. We want to be able to push the hips back into that hip hinge without losing any space between the ribs and the hips. Push that back. We're going to go right hip down, left hip back, come back to the front. Right hip back, 2. Left hip back, 3, 4, 5. Keep going. If you can't get to the ground, use your foam roller. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and good. All right, last week, I don't really remember. I know I was in Carmel and I did that session for you all there, but we want to work ankle grabs. So single leg stance. So now that the hips are mobile, you need to be able to also stabilize it. So stability without mobility is tightness. Tightness is not good. Okay, rigidity is another word that we can use in performance that we think is stability, mobility, and strength all together. All right, right knee out to the side, grab the ankle. All right, so everybody grab that right ankle, elevate the rib cage, standing on your left foot. If you're on any kind of pad, it'll be a little bit harder. Even if you're in a Hoka, a padded running shoe, a cushioned shoe, it'll be more difficult. Okay, right leg stance, left ankle grab. We don't have to be perfect on the first rep. We'll get perfect. 2. Now go back to the right. We're alternating 5 each side. It's going to get better and better each time. 2, promise you. 3, start to elevate the rib cage. Pants might be my biggest problem. 3, 4. Actually, this is 4. Working that left ankle. Every little subtle movement that I can get with my left ankle is going to make that left foot way stronger, more resilient, more robust. When I run on trails, I've already had one near miss on the broken ankle. That's how I know the broken ankle is no longer broken, and I've done a good job of rehabbing it. Good, this is 5. And that's 5. Okay, good. Let's take it down onto the half kneeling position. From right here, if you have that mobility and flexibility in that big toe, see if you can tuck that under in the back. We're going to start to work even more thoracic spine rotation. Push the hips back. First move is just going to go 5 reps here. 2, toes on the ground. 3, chest is tall. 4, you don't want to be dropping. Chest is tall, shoulders back. 5, switch to the other side. Tuck the big toe under in the back. Nice big breath. That's it. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, these next 5, we're going to start to add this rotation. And you can see I'm moving through my T-spine, keeping my eyes on you. Same thing is going to happen. Push the hips back, reach and rotate. 1. Can actually do a little bit of an archer move with your back hand. 2, 3, 4, 5, other side. So we've got tension through the upper body as we work through that rotation. First move is to move the hips back, right leg in front, right elbow high, left arm reaches to the midline. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you can start to feel how this restriction might be coming from that high hamstring. So don't overreach, but find that end point and just kind of work into that end point. So push the hips back, start to rotate. My left hip is quite open. So when I get here, I don't feel much high hamstring, only on my other side. So here, end range might be from my thoracic spine. 3, 4, and 5, and then the switch to the other side. This is where I do feel my right high hamstring. So when I push back here, before I even add the rotation, I feel high hamstring on the right. So our bodies are not a mirror image. The story of Aaron, me, is broken ankle on the left. And so I think the left side for me is more free because it's still not doing the same amount of work as the right side is. And that's what I noticed last week in the half marathon as well, was that about mile 9, the whole right side started to feel overworked. It felt a little at risk, so I actually slowed down a little bit. The left side felt fine. And the left side was the side that the ankle was broken. So it was one of those questions that I had time, because I still hadn't finished the race, and I thought about it. I was like, I could blame the right side, and I could say the right side needs to be stronger, that's why it's hurting. Or I could say, maybe he's been overworking. You know, maybe I need to bring the left side up a little bit. And that's what my belief system kind of ended, was right side is fine. I can add mobility, add function, but where I really need to get stronger is on the left. Okay, let's go into this woodpecker stance or a split stance. From right here, I'll come right at you. We're gonna keep working that hip rotation from a split stance. So last time we worked hip rotation, the pelvis was neutral or pretty close to neutral. Now it's in a decoupled position. So all we're gonna do is just look over the cliff. All that does is load up the lead leg and it frees up the back leg to just come across. 2, 3. We want to start anchoring in on that lead leg. So we're activating the adductor. 4, push into your big toe on your right side. 5, same thing other side, right? Left leg stance, get nice and tall, look over the cliff, load up that left leg. Right hip is coming mid-thigh, and we're dropping the shoulder down in there as well. Anchor in on the left side. 2, 3. Those of you that have been doing this with me for a while are starting to really, hopefully, embrace the overall philosophy of mobility and movement. Those of you that are with me doing the strength program as well, hopefully you're starting to realize that the stronger the adductor gets, the stronger the glute med is going to get, the more rigidity you're going to get through your body on single leg exercises and single leg stances. That's the goal right there. And then be able to either throw things or move nice and comfortably, pump the bicycle a little bit, use the upper body when climbing. All right, let's go one more time. Wide stance, push the hips back. We're going to do the reaches, and the reach, the hand is only there to reach and drive the hip. Make sure the hips are moving, okay? Here we go. Last set, last round. Relax. You want to be nice and relaxed in this. Rotate back. 2, if you try not to weight shift. I weight shifted that first one. Let's start again. 1, try to keep the legs as straight as you can. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good, good. Feels good. 9 and 10. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. That's our Monday mobility for this week. Don't forget, there's tons of these in the playlist. Keep using them. The message is consistent. The training will be consistent. I will keep showing up. Hopefully you're doing well. Take care of you and yours. Happy Thanksgiving.